Alright guys, so in this video, we're going to be making a working gun system. So the first thing we're going to do is we need the gun model. So if you already have the gun model, then you could skip this step, but I do not. So I'm going to go to this toolbox and I'm just going to search for a little gun model that I could use. I think I'm going to use this pistol gun right here. Alright, so we have the gun right here. And basically I'm going to go inside first of all. And I'm going to look for inside the model, and I'm basically just going to delete everything that I don't think I will really be needing. So now I just have the gun model like this. And first things first, I'm going to put it in my starter pack just like this. And I'm going to see what it looks like when I actually grab it to make sure it's not. Okay, so as you can see right there, I'm going to create a weld constraint. So now the slide should be welded to the gun just like that. And I'm going to put it back into the starter pack. So now as you can see, everything looks pretty good, but this needs to be shifted up a little bit more. So as you can see, if I click on the tool, basically I just messed with the transform properties right here, and I just made it so that the grip is different, so it looks like I'm actually holding it. So now that we have the tool set and we make sure that it looks good when we actually equip it, what we need to do is we need to make a little part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a part into the workspace, and I'm just going to make it very small so it can fit into the gun. So probably something like this would be good. And then I'm going to put this where I want our bullet to come out of. So obviously I want it to come out of the front of the gun. So I'm going to make it very small like this. And then I'm going to insert it inside of the gun, kind of like that. I think that looks pretty good. And I'm going to rename this to spawn. Now I'm going to put this inside of the handle. I'm going to make another weld constraint. And this one will be for the spawn. Now let's go ahead and make the spawn transparent and make sure can collide is off, just like that. So now this is basically where the bullet is going to spawn whenever we click and we want to shoot basically. So now that we have that set up, well actually first things first, let's get a decal from the toolbox. Just because we need to make sure that this is facing the correct way. So as you can see, I put a decal onto it and it is facing this way, so that means this is the front, so that's good. So we don't actually need to worry about that. And the reason why I do that is because when we actually spawn the bullet to the spawn point, we need to make sure that it's going out of the correct face and not behind the gun or something like that. So we need to make sure that the face is in the front correctly, which it is, so that's good. So I'm going to put the gun back into the starter pack. And now I'm going to start making the bullet, which is pretty simple. I'm just going to make a little sphere. I'm going to make it very small like this, kind of like that. I'll probably make it a little bit darker like this, maybe even a little smaller than this, like that. And I'm going to rename this to bullet. I'm going to make sure anchored is on. I'm going to go down and I'm going to make sure can collide is off. And well, that's basically all we need for our bullet. So I'm going to drag this into replicated storage. And let's get started on actually scripting the gun. So I'm going to add a local script into starter player scripts, just like this. And first things first, I'm going to reference our local player, which is equal to game.players.localplayer, just like this. And then I'm going to reference the character, which I'm going to do game.workspace, wait for child, localplayer.name. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the player's backpack. So I'm going to do local backpack is equal to local player, wait for child backpack like this. And then once we have the backpack loaded, I'm going to do local gun is equal to backpack, wait for child gun. So now that we have the gun, basically whenever we activate it, we want to start shooting. So let's do gun.activated, and actually let's make sure they know that this is a tool. So just like this, tool. So now we do gun.activated, connect to a function. And then what I'm going to do is actually before this, we're going to make some raycast params. So I'm going to do local params is equal to raycast params.new. And then I'm going to do params dot filter type is equal to enum.raycast filter type.exclude. So what am I doing here? Well, basically, I'm just making new raycast params. And I'm setting the filter type to exclude. So now, whenever I make a new table of all the instances I want to filter, we know that the instances I put in there are going to be excluded and not the ones that are included. So let's get started on that. And actually, before that, let's actually make a reference to the bullet. So I'm going to say local bullet equal to game.replicated storage.bullet. And then we're going to do... Actually, we're going to keep it like this. Also, we're going to need the handle of the gun. So we're going to say local handle equal to gun, wait for child, and then we're going to do handle just like that. And then we also need the spawn origin. So we'll do local spawn is equal to handle, wait for child, spawn. And I'm pretty sure that's what we named it. We named it spawn. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make a params dot filter descendants instances is equal to a table. So what this is basically doing is it's basically saying everything I put in this table will be ignored from the raycast. And the reason why it's being ignored instead of included is because I did the raycast filter type dot exclude. So well, what do we want to ignore? Well, we want to ignore our character. We also want to ignore the actual gun itself. So we'll do gun. We want to ignore the handle, and we want to ignore the spawn, which is the spawn point. And I'm actually going to change the name for this since this looks like it's a different kind of instance. So just do origin like this, and then this will be origin. So now that we got that out of the way, we're going to actually need one more variable, which is going to be the mouse from our local player. So we'll do local mouse is equal to local player colon get mouse like this. Now let's make the direction that we want the bullet to go in. So to do this, let's make a variable called direction. And this is going to be equal to mouse.hit.position minus the origin.position. And then outside of the parentheses, we'll do dot magnitude, just like this. So now that we have the direction, all we need to do is say local result is equal to workspace colon raycast. So now as you can see, it takes in 3 different properties. The first one is the origin, which is a vector 3. The second one is a direction, which is a vector 3. And the third one is raycast params. So for the origin, I think you guys would already know where we want it to originate from. We're going to want to originate from the origin.position, just like this. And then now for the direction, we already have the direction that we made. So we'll do the direction and then we'll multiply this by how far out we want it to go. So let's say we want the bullet to be able to travel 100 studs in this direction. So we have that. And now we need the params, right? So for the raycast params, we just pass in params like this because we already said it right here. All right, so now that we have the result, what we're going to do is, well, we're going to get the bullet from our replicated storage. And then we're going to clone it and we're going to put it into the workspace. Let's make a folder in the workspace actually and rename this to bullets so we know where our bullets are being kept. So let's say local new bullet is equal to bullet colon clone. And then we'll do new bullet dot parent is equal to game dot workspace wait for child bullets, just like this. And then we'll do new bullet dot cframe is equal to spawn, or actually origin dot cframe, like this. Okay, so far what we've done is we've cloned the bullet, we parented it to the bullets folder, and we changed its cframe to be basically where the gun is going to be shooting it out from, which is the origin. Now we just need to make the bullet go from the origin cframe to wherever we click. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to do this using tween service. So actually up here, I'm going to make a new variable called tween service, just like this, is equal to game colon get service tween service. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another variable called tween info is equal to tween info.new. And let's say the time that I want the bullet to travel for is 0.3 seconds. The easing style, I'll do enum.easingstyle.sign. And this is actually all we really need for now. And then for the properties, this is where we're going to actually tell the game where we want our bullet to go. So we're going to do position is equal to mouse.hit.position. And that's really all we need to do. So now let's just make the tween by doing local new tween like this is equal to tween service colon create. And we're going to create it on the new bullet. The tween info is the tween info we made right here. And then the properties is the properties variable we made right here. And then we're going to do new tween colon play. And then to make sure that we destroy the bullet after it is done, we could do game.debris just like this colon add item. And basically what this does is we pass it an item, which it's going to be the new bullet like this. And then we're going to say the lifetime for this bullet is 0.3 seconds, since that's how long it's going to take to enter its end destination. So basically this is saying whenever it actually makes the end destination, we're just going to destroy it from the game because we really don't need it anymore. So now that we have this done, let's go ahead and try it out actually. And before I do that, I'm going to get a little sound from the toolbox. Let's do gunshot like this, just so we make it a little more nice. And so I'm going to use this sound right here. I'm going to click insert and I'm going to put it in our sound service. And now that I have that, I'm going to actually reference it. So I'm going to say local pistol shot sound is equal to game.soundservice. What is it called? It has a weird name. I'm going to rename it real quick. I'm just going to rename it to gunshot dot gun sound service dot wait for child gunshot, just like this. And I'm going to rename this to gunshot. So after we actually create the tween, I'm going to do gunshot play, and let's click play and let's see what happens. So we have our gun out. I'm going to click somewhere. Oops. And we have an error here. So it says unable to cast double to vector 3. And it looks like this is in our result. So let me see what's going on here. So I think the reason why this is happening is because we're actually not supposed to have dot magnitude on our direction variable. We're actually supposed to have the unit just like this. That way we have a nice vector 3. So now let's click play, and now that we've changed that, it should be working. So as you can see, it is now working pretty well. But that sound is a little bit much, so I'm going to turn it down. So I'm going to put the volume to 0.1, and then I'm going to make that bullet a little bit bigger, because I think that looks a bit too small. So I'm going to make it a bit bigger, kind of like this. Now let's try it one more time. So I think that looks a little bit better. So if we go into workspace, as you can see in our bullets folder, when we shoot for a split second, there's something that's added into the folder, right? But then it quickly disappears, and this is because of the game.debris add item thing I did to make sure it deletes after a while. So now that we have that working, we want to make it so that whenever it hits someone, it actually damages them. So to do this, what I'm going to get first of all is I'm going to insert a rig into the game just to make sure that this is working correctly. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do if result.instance : is a player, then print hit a player, just to make sure this is working. You guys don't have to do this part, but I'm just going to make sure that it's working. So I think I know the problem. It's not actually printing. So I think it's because this rig is actually not classified as a player technically. So I'm going to do or result.instance.parent result.instance.parent.name is equal to rig, just like this. So now that we hit it, as you can see, it says hit a player. And I'm going to wrap this around if result then, just in case there's not a result. Then we're just going to say else, maybe print no result found, just like this. And I'm also going to make a debounce. So I'm going to do local debounce is equal to false. And then inside the gun.activated function, I'm going to say if debounce is equal to false, then debounce is equal to true, just like this. And then I'm going to gather all of this right here, and I'm going to put it inside of here, just like this. And then right before it ends, I'm going to write task.wait. Let's wait 0.2 seconds. And then we're going to do debounce is equal to false. And basically just what I did is I constructed my own little mini timer so that you can't spam the gun. So now I'm basically spam clicking, but as you can see, it only shoots a certain amount of time. Okay, so now what we want to do is that once we know that what we hit is a player, basically we're going to get its humanoid. So let's do local humanoid is equal to result.instance.humanoid or result.instance.parent.humanoid. And let's actually do find first child, because I think this will be a lot easier for us. Just like this. And then all we need to do is humanoid.health minus equal 10. And we're basically done. So let's say we have our gun here and we're shooting, and then we hit the rig. As you can see, it sees that it has a humanoid. So it starts damaging the rig and it's dead. So now let's make sure this works with actual players. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the test with 2 players and I'm going to start it. So as you can see, we have player 1 right here. So I'm going to make player 2 walk all the way over here and just basically just chill right here. So now with player 1, I'm going to go full screen. I'm going to have my gun out and I'm going to start shooting him. So it actually doesn't work for some reason. Let's go over to the rig. It works for the rig, so let's figure out why it's not working for this guy. Well, let's figure out why this is not working. I think it's because of this line of code right here. It's not actually checking if it's a player. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do find first child, humanoid, and then I'm going to do the same thing right here, find first child, humanoid. And the reason why I have 2 for each one is because it's never really clear if it's going to hit the actual model or a child of the model. So first I check to see if it hits a child of the model, so I do result.instance, which is the child, and then the parent, which is the model of the character. So if I don't find anything here, if this is nil for some reason, I go on to this. And if this is correct, that means we actually did hit the model itself and not a child of the model, if that makes sense. So now that we have that working, we could actually probably delete this right here, and then we'll just write then here. So now let's try this one more time. So once again, we have the 2 players. I'm player 2 and I'm going to walk over here. And for player 1, I'm going to grab the gun and I'm going to start shooting. And as you can see, it obviously hits the player. And then once he gets to 0 health, he basically dies. And well, I think the reason why it doesn't show him dying is because we didn't actually do a remote event to remove the health. So we could just do this real quick, guys. Let's add a remote event into replicated storage. And then we'll rename this to deal humanoid damage, just like that. So now let's get it at the top of the script. We're going to say local deal humanoid damage remote event is equal to game.replicatedStorage.deal humanoid damage. So instead of removing the health here, we'll do deal humanoid damage remote event fire server, and then we'll pass through the humanoid. So now let's make a script in server service, and we're going to rename this to on server events. So let's actually go up here and let's copy this line of code and let's put it up here. So now we'll do deal humanoid damage remote event dot on server event connect to a function. And our first argument is always going to be the player, and then the second one is going to be that humanoid that we passed over. So here we could just do humanoid dot health minus equal 10. So let's actually delete this right here because we don't need to call it twice. So now let's start it one more time. This should be the very last time, unless something goes wrong, but we'll see. So once again, we have player 1 this time. We're going to walk over here, and then let's go to player 2, and we're going to start shooting him. And as he gets closer and closer to 0 health, he should die, just like that. Perfect. Thank you guys for watching, and if you want me to make a more advanced gun system with ammo and different types of gun and stuff like that, make sure to leave a comment down below to let me know. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.